The 36th edition of Bürgenstock, the International Forum for Commodities and Derivatives, will take place in Geneva between 22nd and 24th of September. Dan De Robinson is the new chairman of the Swiss Futures and Option Association. He intends, and in fact has already, restored Bürgenstock to its former splendour. Dan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nicolette.
So, the SFOA, the Swiss Futures and Option Association, is a very old association, but you are a new president. You're making some large changes. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the Swiss Futures and Options Association has been around for nearly 40 years. Even though it's called the Swiss Futures and Options Association, it's actually an international association. And it's one of the only two international associations on the planet, the other one being headquartered in the United States. SFOA, as the association is actually more normally called, SFOA is in the process of making some changes after this 40-year period. And I joined the board only a year ago, and I took a long, hard look at the association before deciding that we needed to do some different things and recommending those to our board. And basically, those changes relate to how we serve better the global derivatives industry. So what we do for our membership. And our members are exchanges from all over the planet. They're banks, they're brokers, they're people from the buy side. And what I wanted to do was try and diversify our membership so that we weren't just representing one or another vested interest lobby, but reach out to the entire global potential membership. So we're looking very closely at membership. And one of my ambitions, for example, is to bring for the first time individual members to the association so that, professionals who are involved in futures and options, in derivatives, in swaps, in listed derivatives, if you like, that they can basically join the association and have their own voice in the association, which hasn't really been possible up to now. The second change is that Bürgenstock, our flagship conference, which I'd like to talk about if we have a minute a little bit later, but Bürgenstock, which takes place every year in a few weeks' time, originally was held on the side of a mountain in Switzerland, has been attended by all of these different groups of members and others wishing to come and talk and imagineer, if you like, about derivatives. That I've made some changes to Bürgenstock to try and make it much more attractive, to make it more exciting, to bring in a younger audience, to diversify. And then the third thing that I'm doing with the association is to, if you like, try and develop our focus on new products, new markets, new exchanges, new platforms. There's a lot of talk, Nicolette, about regulation and compliance all the time. And what we are doing now is saying, look, our original focus here from an independent base in Switzerland has been to look at new products, new developments, and ways of creating money, which is the most important thing after all. So although, for example, we have still a huge regulatory and compliance dialogue with our membership, we're building at the moment on those regulation strengths, but we're focusing very much more on emerging markets and on those things.
And you're also building bridges with the commodities sector, which is very important here in Geneva.
Yes, I mean, we have an initiative for commodities. Commodities are crucially important. This is one of the world's biggest commodity trading hubs. And what, SFOA originally, when it was formed, was actually the Swiss Commodities, Futures and Options Association. And we dropped the word commodities actually towards the end of the 1990s, but we've always stayed alive and active with the commodities people. So, part of the development process for global derivatives is, the emerging fledgling exchanges. So, we've got a membership dialogue and a commodities dialogue, if you like, with people in Africa, in South America, in some of the sort of new places that we're all looking at the moment, like, well, not new places, but we're looking at Iran, China, and of course we have delegations coming from those sort of commodity interested countries to our conference later in the month.
Okay, so let's talk about the big topic, which is Bürgenstock.
Well, Bürgenstock's probably the thing that we are probably most famous for. It's actually not the most important thing that we ourselves think we do, but it's probably one of the things that we're most famous for. As I mentioned earlier, the conference has been on the go. We're in our 36th conference. As I mentioned, it used to be held on the side of a mountain, and in the good old days, as they were called, the CEOs of the major exchanges used to come to this mountainside location and have fun. And talk about their businesses and how they could develop their businesses and what they could do. And many initiatives came out of Bürgenstock to develop the exchange community, to develop the markets, to develop derivatives. And when I was sort of looking at what we could do with Bürgenstock, I was trying to think, how do we respond to what our members from all over the planet are telling us? And so we wanted to reinvigorate that dynamism by making the program much shorter, much more exciting, by bringing back some cocktail parties. We've hired a jazz band for the first time for the event in September, by moving the location of Bürgenstock so it's right by the lake. Yes, we had beautiful views of the mountains from Bürgenstock, but now we have beautiful views of the Mont Blanc range, the Jet d'Eau, the lake. So we've sorted out the location, we've contracted the program, we've made it less expensive, we've produced more fun, we've developed more cocktails, we've got more sponsors than we had last year or the year before, and we're doing it on our own to represent not just the global derivatives community, but also the Swiss hub and what we have in Switzerland to offer to the rest of the world.
You have some very, very high level attendance, such as this year of the CME, or the head of the Indian derivatives exchange. Can you tell us about the newcomers, the Chinese, the Indians, the Argentinians, the Africans? Everybody's coming this year.
Everybody's coming. It's incredibly exciting because even though we're going through a pretty stressful time in emerging markets, and even though the sort of more developed new markets like China, for example, are under pressure, you're seeing the China Futures Association sending a delegation. We've got a delegation coming from the Iran Mercantile Exchange. We have, as you say, the South Americans, the Argentinians coming. And why is that? It's because we're talking about new products. We're talking about people who want to develop markets, yes, make money. They don't just want to talk about regulation and compliance, although we have the International Regulators Meeting, which is the only one of its kind, with representation from regulators all over the planet. So they're coming for that reason from all over the place. We've got the JSE coming with a delegation from South Africa. I think we took a booking from Nairobi this morning. So this is truly an international meeting. It's not a vested interest group in one place or another, be it London or New York or Paris or wherever it is. This is actually a truly international venue.
And so what is the future of SFOA, as you call it?
Well, that's a very good question. I don't actually have a crystal ball, so I'm not going to make any wild predictions. It's true that we've had to change. The slogan for Bürgenstock this year is "The world is changing, so is Bürgenstock." So what I've told you about developing new products, new markets, looking at emerging markets, those kinds of things, we must be doing something right, because we're getting a flow, gradually an increasing flow of new members from all over the planet. So I would say the future for SFOA is bright. I may be wrong, we never know what's around the corner, but I'd say the future's pretty bright. We have a new management team who are pretty passionate about what we do, so I think it's an exciting future. So I hope people will come and join in, not just in the conference, but join the association.
Dan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Nicolette.